Hi there, Kevin Tharp here. Today we're going to continue with the Community Garden Case Study Part 1. We're going to be working on section number 4 today, which is building this structure for the content using HTML5. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using semantic markup language, which is the HTML has been moving its way there. HTML5 incorporates some new semantic markup language, such as header, footer, into the HTML standard. And so we're going to be laying out those elements of our website that are going to be the same on all of our pages. Now, in the previous video, I had you create a template for creating a very basic HTML5 document. If you have not already saved that, what I need you to do is go in there, do a save as, and we want to save this inside of case studies, and we want this to be called index.html. So I've got case studies highlighted. I choose index.html, and it comes over in here. Now this is what the previous name was. I'm just going to delete that to clean it up from my system so we're not looking at it. Okay, so going back to the directions, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a header. So I come into my HTML. You'll notice that in my the template that I had you create with the basic HTML, we've already got a header in there. If that isn't already in there in yours, go ahead and create this element. I'll go ahead and take this out and walk you through what that looks like. So I simply choose the header, and that's going to create the opening tag and the closing tag. I'm going to go ahead and separate those because it makes it easier to work. So I've put the spaces there, and this also helps us to see the tags are header, the opening and closing tags, and everything that sits in between there is going to be the content that is on the page. So one of the things that I wanted to have you do is create a Nav section, and again, when I use the autofill here, it creates the opening and closing tabs. And I just put that text in there right now so that if we go to preview this page, you'll be able to see where that is within that page. So you can see navigation will go here and the footer. So if we go back to my document, you'll see that the only text that's on there is the navigation will go here. That's sitting between the opening and closing nav tags, which sit within the header tag. The other text that you saw is copyright 2015, and that is in the footer. So all the rest of this is code, but because there isn't any text in there or images, you don't see that at this point. So what we're going to do, always the most important thing on a page normally goes at the top of the page, and it's in what's called a heading level 1. And there's the different levels of headings that are there. Each one semantically indicates that heading is of lower importance than the others. So I'm choosing heading level 1. Again, I can space that down. I'm really doing that at this point for the visual so that you can see that what I'm doing needs to go between the H1 tags. So for what we need to do for this particular setting is we need to say the community garden, and I'm going off the instructions in part 4. And so if I went ahead and did a preview again, you would now see that the community garden is in there in much larger text, and that's the way that the browser renders a heading level 1. Until you tell it to do otherwise, it's going to default to certain sizes within the browser, and that is a rule. You'll learn more about that when we look at the cascade later on. A header level 2 would be a little bit smaller, header level 3 a little smaller, etc. And so that's the default presentation or CSS that comes with the browsers, and we'll learn how to manipulate that as we move through the lessons and get to the CSS. So I want to have this header at the top of the page. Now the other thing that I want to do is I want to have an image in there. So what we need to do is download the image to this images folder. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So for those of you who are in my class, the place that you will get that is under the content area, under the current module that has case study part 1 in there, and the logo is called communitygardenlogo.png. So you want to go ahead and download that image and save it into the images folder. Okay, now when we come back to our Aptana, you'll see that there's a little arrow there indicating that there's additional files. And so we've got the communitygardenlogo.png in there. So we're now able to go ahead and add an image to this header. Now in the directions that I've laid out in front of you, I want you to actually add that before this H1. So using the image tag, so you have the image tag. Inside it is the source, which is the attributes. And then what I want to do is I want to point to this document. So I could just use a relative path, meaning the path that it would have to take from this document. Or I can use the fill-in function of Aptana, and as I start typing images, it finds a relative thing, and I put the / there indicating that it needs to go into that directory, and then you can see the Community Garden logo. So that shows up there, and now what I want to do is go ahead and look at that. And you'll see that that logo shows up first because it's first in the HTML. Then we've got the H1 of the Community Garden, a placeholder for our navigation, and the footer. The other thing that you want to look at is that this is a relative path, meaning that from the location of this document, which is index.html, inside the case studies folder, you would go to the folder called images. Since it's at the same level, there's no / or anything in front of it. So within the same folder, that's what this image is. So look in the folder called images in the same folder that I'm at that point in time, and then go into that folder and find Community Garden logo. So this is a relative path. Now if I was pointing to this location from somewhere where I couldn't do a relative path, or where it might change, then I might have to do an absolute URL, which would be something to the effect of tharpk.stoutwebtech.net /exercises/case studies /images and then communitygardenlogo.png. So that would be an absolute URL. But whenever possible, it is better to use the relative URLs, because that means that it doesn't have to go out to the internet and then start looking for the image. It knows to just look in the same folder, and that creates efficiency in the amount of time it takes for your document to compile within the to render within the browser. So for illustration purposes, what we've done so far is we've got the HTML document. The body is included in there, the body tag right there. And then we have inside of that a header, which is the header tag. Inside the header we have the navigation. So the navigation is here. Now that this wireframe doesn't show the images or the text. This is just showing the structure of the document. So that's what we're building as we're going forward here, and we're putting a little bit of content in there. So then there's going to need to be a section for main content and footer. But as we're moving along, what we're going to do is we're going back to this navigation plan, and so from all of the pages we're going to have a link to a document called About the Garden, a link to a projects page, and a link to a join page. Now from a standpoint of a marketing funnel, this join page is going to be the place that would be where we achieve a goal of trying to get somebody to interact with our site in the form of signing up. So we'll talk about the marketing funnels later on, but that is going to be one of the goals of the site, is to get people to join so that we can establish ongoing communication with those people to accomplish the goals of our site. So in the meantime, what we want to do is we want to go and create the navigation to About the Garden, Projects, and Join. And these are all folders that will folders or pages that will be around later. So what I'm doing is I'm coming into the navigation, and I'm going to just drop that down because I like to work. I'm a visual coder and I like to have space in there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do an unordered list, and an unordered list means that it's going to have dots in front of it instead of numbers. So I start writing the code for an unordered list. And again, I like to separate my tabs. You don't have to do that. And then I'm going to have a series of list items. Okay, so the first one that I want to have is About the Garden. So I come between those two list items and I type in About the Garden. Again, since that is between the opening and closing tags, that becomes something that is visible. Then I want to do another list item. And I want to make sure, again, I'm between the tags, and I want to do projects. And then the last one is join. So that corresponds to the diagram of the places that I want to have. This is what I call universal navigation. These links are going to be on every page, and so that's what we're going to be working our way towards as we're moving on. And we'll cover that in the remaining of the case studies. Now, the last thing that we want to do is we want to have footer content. So what we want to have for the footer, I've already done this when I set up the template, but what I want you to do is, if you haven't already got a footer, create a footer tag, put your name in there, and then what I'd like you to do is also within the footer, make sure there's a space, and then we want to add a email link. So to create a mail to link, what you do is, first off, it's an anchor because you're creating a hyperlink, and then you have to do the href. And then I want to do mail to, and it allows me to choose a mail anchor. And then you'll notice that it adds a lot of code here. You need to fill in the areas there. So mail to, this first section is your email address. Okay, now you don't have to have this question mark and subject equals feedback. If you have that, what it's going to do is when they click that email link, it's going to be it's going to enter that in the subject area. So that gives you a nice way of seeing where you're getting that hyperlink from, and it can give you more information about where you're getting, for instance, email leads. So I'm going to do just a case study, case studies. So that anytime somebody clicks that email link, and for the text, again, since we're between the opening and closing anchors, this is the visible text that will be hyperlinked. And I'm just going to put my email address. And we'll go ahead and we will run that. So now we've got the email. If I click on that, okay, then there's some kind of an error in there. And I see what the error is it's href equals href equals. So that is an error that I made. So go ahead and delete that. Now let's try running it, and I'm confident it's going to work this time. When you click on that, it should launch your mail program with the email address and the subject of case studies, which is exactly what it should have done. Okay, so go ahead and save your project, save all the files. We've only worked on one. Close that, and then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and it's telling me there's still an error. See the little icon there? So let's go in and look and see what it's seeing as the error. And so what I did is I added two anchors. I added an anchor inside of an anchor. Okay, so I just cleaned up that code. Now the error messages are gone. It's nice that it gives us to that. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that again. And you'll notice that the error message goes away. The only thing that I have changed is this document. And so I'm going to go ahead and publish that document. I'm just going to choose upload because I've got just this one document that's going uploaded. Now if I go ahead and open my browser, that will bring me to this page, and we'll check. So I go to my URL, and because of the steps I took earlier, I've got the exercises page that links to my case studies. And now, since I have an index.html document in there, that link should bring me to the case studies. And I can always check to see where that link is going by when I hover. It shows down at the bottom here where it's going to. So you'll see that it's going to exercises case studies. When I click on that, it loads the document. It gave me the broken image because I didn't upload the image. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and upload the entire case studies directory. I could choose synchronize, but for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and just upload the entire directory. That'll get the images folder, the whole thing, everything that we've been working on the case studies. I click OK, go back to my browser, reload it again. There you go. So save yours, upload it, test it on the server, and make sure that everything is in line. Make sure you have the link from the exercises folder.